that? I don't know what they call that, but
See.
like a Tetris game. Yeah.
Hmm.
So everybody needs a plan or a strategy, and that means everybody, not just us, but everybody we talk to. I think, in my opinion, investments is the easiest thing to talk to people about. If you listen to Shane Perry's talk this last week, investments is what's going to hook people, get people in. Everybody needs life insurance, but that doesn't get them excited about coming to see you. Nobody wants another bill. They want to protect their family, but they don't want the bill. They want to build wealth, but they don't know how to do it. So, if you look at most people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. When you leave the house and you're going to a new destination, or you're coming to the office or somebody else's office, or you're going to a party, don't you pull out your phone and plug the address in and just head that direction? Isn't that the way everybody operates these days?
Yeah.
Yeah. What does your GPS look like for you to get from where you are today to where you want to go in the future? What does that look like? Do you have one? I think what Tony was talking about with that guy Lamin or Lamine or whatever his guy, it reminded me of the whole thing of Shane talking about we need to talk to people about where they're at. And not them personally, but this is where people in that situation are at. I kind of used it yesterday, and I had a new guy come in. I just did the cash flow quadrant, but I talked about the GPS. I talked about cash flow quadrant and where he was headed. Manager of a Chick-fil-A going into pressure washing business. He wants better, just doesn't know what opportunities are to get him, what vehicle that he should be looking at. But everybody needs the plan. Everybody needs some sort of GPS. And how many people would benefit if they had one, just like how many people have benefited from having a cell phone with a GPS? Is that everybody?
A lot of people, yeah.
100%. So in our business, it's very hard for you to fail once you understand that we put the GPS in place for everybody. Global positioning system, and it's about building wealth. There's three accounts that everybody needs to have if they're ever going to get themselves financially independent. One account they need an emergency fund. And that account should be set up every time you're setting up investments for somebody. Because certainly, I can tell you this, everybody out there needs cash. And if you put it into accounts that have penalties and a bunch of fees and penalties, and that's all you do for them, you're not going to have that client long term. They are going to one day leave you and be angry at you because they cashed out their IRA and they got hit with penalties and taxes and fees.
Yep.
Everybody needs an emergency fund. To be a
Yep.
successful investor, first you got to be a successful saver. And so when we set up accounts, it's got to be a piece of that going to the emergency fund. And what's the best emergency fund? At least for the last few years, it's been a money market account. Before that, we did munis. They were okay, but they've not been what they used to be. And most of the clients that had munis, hopefully you've moved them out into money market accounts. They're outperforming them, and I don't care about the tax advantage part of it, because if you're not making money, it's no advantage.
Right.
The next place you want to look at is short-term planning, major home purchase. Now, by the way, one thing I've learned over the years, you don't need a second account for that. You can just add another fund inside of that first account. So you don't need to go through the labor of setting up a second account. I don't see the advantage. Once I get an account set up that's a non-qualified account or a joint tenants account, I'll add another mutual fund to that. And I've got plenty of examples of where I've got clients where they've got $200,000 and $300,000 in their combined account, a portion in a money market, a portion in low yield, dividend paying options and value funds inside of those that are paying these days. I got clients making 10% interest in their joint tenants or their these savings accounts. And then the long-term account, you're looking at the retirement accounts, financial independence, passive residual income. That's where they're focused on their fin number. These are 10 plus years out, not the immediate. Okay. So those are the three accounts everybody needs to have. Just logically walking people through, where do you find the money? They say that if you're making 50K a year and you're younger, you should be considering saving 10 to 15% of what you make. So let's just talk about 15%. How do you get there? Here's an example of how you can get there. Because I want people to logically Say, look, I can do that. Okay. So where and how do you do that is not that difficult. You go to your employer and let's say they'll match 50 cents on the dollar if you put up to 6% of your income. So if you're putting 6% of your income into your retirement account, 403b, 401k, and then they're putting 50%, now all of a sudden you're at 9% of your income of the 15. So that's a big chunk right there. So if you just take advantage of the first place to invest is always where there's a match, and you do the max, 6%, you're going to find it ain't that much money. I don't know if I did the calculation here, but I did. 50,000 divided by 26, most people get paid every 2 weeks, is 1923 every 2 weeks. 6% is $115. The employer adds 58. So you've only put in 115. I don't believe, yeah, I did. I did the net effect. So that 115 pre-tax is 115. Post-tax is $90. So I want you to think about that for a minute. Your contribution that you notice out of your paycheck is $90, but your net effect is 173. Tell me that's not big. That's huge. Does that make
That's
sense?
that's what the match, right? The
That's the
173.
max. Yeah. That's the 115 and the 58 a pay. That's the 173, but your only cost is $90. So
Hmm.
this is talk about value, and you got to get them to logically say that makes a ton of sense. So I'm only going to see the after tax of $90. I got to just tighten the belt a little bit every 2 weeks and figure out where I'm wasting it. And if I put that away, I'm gaining 173. I'm almost doubling my money, Hector.
Hmm.
Open a Roth IRA with the remainder of $100 every 2 weeks for a balance of your 15%. And now you're there. So you do the 6% match, and then you open a Roth IRA and you put $100 in there twice a month. Now you're there. You've just put away 15% of your money, and it's not as complicated as you thought it might have been. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can do that, but if you can do that, you're talking about wealth creation in the works. How do we teach people how to, get a better return? Well, you got to know the rule of 72. We've seen this a million times. I'm not going to go through all of it, but you got to teach them a little bit about compound interest. You got to teach them about the money is really made in the later years. You make the money here. The money's really not, here it's nice. When you're younger, it's nice when you see these, but it's not when you got 4,000 in your account, it goes to 8,000. You're not feeling rich. 10,000 to 20,000, you're not feeling rich. You got to just stay the course, and you're not feeling rich until all of a sudden you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I just made $100,000 passively for doing nothing in the year. Yep. Yep. I just made 300,000. It's the compounding. Remember, I don't know if some of you saw the other day, but I showed that client's account that went from 800,000 to 900,000 in 12 months. People's minds get blown, but if that was 8,000, it went to 9,000, you're not that excited just because you haven't compounded that out. But at some point in the future, it's going to be 800 going to 900 to 1,000,006. You just got to look into the future and not get so caught up in where you are right now, because sometimes it's not super exciting. But we got to
Can I
learn
say
that.
something?
You learn, say something.
Well, when I show people, like, especially if they're starting out with like 100, 200, I'll do a hypothetical for the fun. Because obviously, like you said in the beginning, the, 5,000, 8,000, it doesn't look like a lot, and people can get discouraged and feel like, well, it's not really growing. So I'm just going to take a couple thousand out. But, showing that, hey, it's really like the last 5 years or, whatever that last chunk of years where you doing this 200 a month, that you're going to see that doubling to, 800 to the 1 point whatever million. And so this is why you would want to stay the course and not just give up when it's still kind of small to you in the beginning. So this is what you're working for. Because a lot of people, I would say they head fake themselves out of it kind of early in the beginning.
Most people, we're in a microwave society. People want to warm up their food and it be ready in 2 to 3 minutes. They don't want to do the slow cooker. They don't want to do 4 to 8 hours in the slow cooker, even though it tastes better and it's healthier. but a lot of people want an instant gratification. Why is fast food so successful? People want to eat fast, and it's not
Right.
healthy. So people do that their whole life, and then they wonder why they are taking medicine because they
That's right.
shortcutted everything, and then you can't shortcut wealth creation. That's something we got to teach. It's as you were talking about that. Well, anyway, let me get back to this. Because I think I heard this last week, and this is like, we're teaching, right? We're educators more than we are anything. I think of Shonda, we're teachers, we're doctors. We got to put ourselves in that situation. A lot of people think investing is like gambling. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, gambling is where there's a winner, and then what else is there?
Losers.
There's a winner and a loser. We don't deal with winners and losers in our business. We deal with win-win scenarios and long-term historicals.
That's right.
I don't teach people how to lose because if they lose, I lose. And I'm not into losing. So if we're going to work together, we're going to win together.
That's right.
Two winners, not a winner and a loser. Okay. Because a lot of people have the misconception is it's gambling. There is gambling. That's Atlantic City. That's all these new casinos that they put up in Maryland. There's winners and there's losers. And that's why there's addiction lines now. There was supposed to be all this money coming in for the school system. We were all going to get better, and we allowed gambling to come into Maryland. And it's made it worse.
Yeah.
It's done nothing. Gambling is the wrong way to go. So, all right, let's pull it up. Let's keep going. There's some goodies in here. Some of you guys may have heard of some of this stuff. I know Rule of 72 was new to some of you. Right. You haven't heard that one before. Possibly the most impactful thing, or the most, important thing in successful investing, is understanding the psychology of it. And some of you have heard this before, but what are the three most important things if you're going to successfully invest in real estate?
Location.
Yeah, I'm talking to a bunch of experienced people. So the idea is the same in the market. Stock market sounds risky. I know people think it's risky, but here's the key. Number one key, diversification. What do you think number two is? Market timing? Not market timing. Nope.
Dollar cost
Diversification.
Dollar cost average. Nah, it's diversification. It's all about spreading your money out so you don't take all this major risk. Too many people, they'll tell you, oh, put your money in crypto. But which one? There's 1,000 or 2,000 different cryptocurrencies and blockchains. Which one? If you could invest in all of them, maybe. But how much of your money should be invested in crypto? And when I talk to some people, they put it all in crypto. And I'm like, how foolish is that? That's like the same thing. You didn't learn from history. There were people out there that, have you ever heard of the company called Enron? They were sold on this energy, and everybody that was, even people employed there, all their money was tied up into this one company. When it went bust, people went bust. So you got to learn about diversification. Well, how do you diversify? Yep.
Doesn't that remind you of the guy you were talking about that had, and I just had one of these last week, who had his 401k and he had 1% in every mutual fund that the 401k that the 401k offered. It was like I was so confused. Like, well,
how did you
what were
choose
thinking when you made this decision? And he said, I was just thinking about diversification, right?
Yeah.
So, there is a limit to diversification. It shouldn't be like you got 100 mutual funds and you only putting in $100.
You're spread too thin. It's like you got a property in every state in the country, in the world, in every city. How can you monitor that? How can you even keep track of it? There's one burning down over here. There's two. You don't even know. You could do that and still be invested almost the same if you had one fund. Much more efficient. So, understanding that there is, and this is a Morningstar grid, but understanding that there are different places to put your money, and you got to look at equities, stocks, bonds, fixed income, and then where are you going to put it? Are you going to put it in large, medium, or small, value, blend, or growth? And then your bond structure, is it going to be high risk, medium risk, low risk, short term, interim, long term? So how do you pick? And our job as advisors is to help guide you to picking the right places to put your money. And if you look at where is the riskiest place to put your money, the riskiest place to put your money here and the biggest return is going to be small cap growth. That's going to be your biggest return potentially because it's companies that have maybe just gotten onto the New York Stock Exchange and they want to grow and be a large cap one day. If you want the most secure place to put your money, you're going to go over here and look at in the equity market large cap value.
Yep.
It's the big companies, the Procter and Gamble's, the Coca-Colas, the companies that have, and by the way, these companies consolidate and buy and acquire and they distribute millions of products to the consumer. They're not going anywhere. They're paying dividends, but they're also not going to go through some major growth. It's not going to be the next Tesla. It's not going to be the next Rivian. It's not going to, which might be going bankrupt. It might not be the next AI company. But you know they're going to be there because people, even in a down market, they're buying Diet Coke and Coca-Cola. Even in, does that make sense? Even in markets that aren't so good, people are still buying Cheerios. So you can invest in Cheerios. And then the same thing over here, high risk. You know, if you look at the fixed income style, the riskiest place is the high junk bonds, short-term junk bonds. Long-term and low risk is some of your better options. And that's, you know, you can look at some managed municipals and munis. You're going to get less of a return, but you're going to get a longer period of time. So those are just a couple of ideas, but it's like our job is to help guide you. And if you go based on always historical, you can burn your butt. Because what happens is if you look and say, hey, this is, and by the way, this is a bit old, 2023, but if you look at this chart for 2023 and you say, hey, what was the best return in 2023? You could say, well, it was large cap. Well, if you do large cap in 2024, there's no guarantees you're going to get that same return because if you look at the year before, large cap was down 18%. That would have been the year to buy it, but it's hard to time it because then the next year it became the number one performer. And what happens is because of this type of track record, people will make decisions based on yesterday rather than their future based on how their time horizon is. We got to get them focused on their time horizon. An asset allocation strategy is a little bit more middle of the road, but you can ride the market out through historicals. And if you do that, you got a better chance of winning instead of putting all your eggs in one basket. Now, if you're young, you might be able to put all your things aggressively. Now, watch this. JP Morgan put out this report, and it comes out about every year. I should probably search for the latest one, but 20-year return, if you notice, if you look at any length of time, the S&P 500 in this 20-year period was up almost 10%. Real estate investment trusts were up over 11%. Emerging market equity was up 10%, but the average investor earns 3.6. Why is that? Anybody?
They don't know what they're doing.
Investor psychology.
Yeah, they're doing exactly what you said not to do. They're looking at last year's winner, buying that, then jumping out, keep going.
Yeah. They're not making any logical decisions. Most people make decisions emotionally, try to justify it logically. And when our job and our primary, the way we make our money the most is just walking people off a ledge, talking to them about not jumping out of the market when the market is fluctuating, talking to them about continuing to buy when they're calling to cancel. Kind of like Tony Reyna did this morning. Clients calling to cancel life insurance. They ended up with more life insurance because now they understand. We got to get people to understand this is a historical. There are ups and downs, but it's been that way forever and ever and ever. If you look at periods of time, if you look at 1 year in the market, you can have as high as 47% up, but you can also have as low as 39% down. And if you're blended, you know, if you have a mixture, if you have a 60-40 mixture, if you're in bonds, you don't have as many lows, but you also don't have as many highs. And if you blend it, it kind of evens it out. But look at what happens when you go to 5 years. 5 years, it's hard to find anybody that is ever down. If you look at 10 years, it only happened once ever in the history of the market. But if you look at 20 years, it never happens. So based on your age, do you have 20 years of life? Because when we're talking about people investing, it's not till retirement. It's how long do they have a life expectancy? And I don't know about you, I'm 58. My life expectancy maybe is 88. My dad just had his 90th birthday. So that means I got a 30-year window to look at, not a 10 years to retirement. I'm talking about 30 years. because this doesn't change in retirement. The market's still the market. Just because I'm older doesn't mean I should be changing my philosophy. Equities is the way to go. Diversification is the way to go in retirement, not just before retirement. I don't change my concepts, wealth concepts. A couple stories for you. Anybody know the difference between a squirrel and a farmer?
No.
Squirrel and a farmer.
Squirrel and a farmer. You guys ever watch squirrels running around the backyard, grabbing nuts, burying the nuts? Most people are kind of like,
squirrel looks for nut.
say that again. Yeah, I don't know.
I
if
was
you
gonna say squirrel goes around trying to find nuts, and a farmer plants the nuts.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the different philosophy is the squirrel wants to eat right now. The squirrels run around like crazy. Sometimes they'll hide their nuts in different places, but it's just for eating in the next month or two. They're thinking very short term. Squirrel's brain's like this. It's tiny. Yet the average person kind of thinks like a squirrel. The farmer thinks long term. The farmer's got to get the land, they got to till the land, they got to fertilize the land. They got to get it ready for planting the seeds, the nuts, the next generation, the next year. And they can't just think 1 year. They got to take 2, 3, 4, 5 years, because if they put the wrong stuff on the soil or they don't get it properly prepared, it might not be able to plant the right thing the next season. So it's always into the future. They're thinking long term. The difference between the squirrel and the farmer is the farmer thinks long term and the squirrel thinks very short term, whereas the average person is so caught up in the daily news, they're like squirrels running around. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Did you see what Trump did with the tariffs? Oh my God, did you see what they did with the, oh my God, did you see what? Stop it. Stop it. That's noise. Let's look at history. Think like a farmer. This too shall pass. Are you getting your soil prepared? Are you preparing your future? Are you investing in your future? Are you getting the right kind of seeds? And what kind are they? I don't know. I mean, maybe you take some risk and plant marijuana seeds. Might make a good crop, but they might change it illegally next year. I don't know. Or maybe you get in trouble with marijuana. Somebody comes and steals it from you. You might want to plant corn. Maybe corn's the best. Does that make sense? You got to figure out, and that's through diversification. We'll help you with that. We'll help you be the right kind of farmer rather than be the right kind of running around squirrel like having a heart attack. That's the difference between a squirrel and a farmer. The other story is the price of a dairy farmer and the price of beef. Here's what I want you to think about. Be a guy that owns a dairy farm, right? If you own a dairy farm, what are you selling?
Milk.
And what do you own? What produces the milk?
The cows.
You got cows, right? So you own cows and you're producing milk, and you're going to be selling on your farm. You might be selling milk to the consumer. Hell, you might even be making ice cream and selling to the consumer. You could be selling whipped cream to the consumer. You could be selling cheese to the consumer, right? In Wisconsin, they sell a lot of cheese. You go into certain parts of New Jersey and Pennsylvania, they're selling a lot of milk. You know, you're focused on what the product that comes out of the cow. So if the price of beef is going up and down, do you care?
No.
Because you're not selling the cattle. You want the milk that comes out of the cattle.
Yeah.
Now, if you're maybe out west and you're selling steak, you're going to care about the price of beef. But I mentioned to you, you're a dairy farmer when you start out. You're going to own the cows and get the production from the cows. Works that way with the investment market. You can have equities and it pays you dividends and capital gains, and you can leave the ownership in place. You can turn on all the dividends as you get older and turn on the income that's generated and still own the shares of the cows, if you want to call them that. And I want you to think like a dairy farmer and stop thinking like the guy that's worried about he's selling the dairy farm. You ain't selling the dairy farm. You keep the dairy farm because you're going to pass it on to the next generation. You're going to keep buying cows, and those cows will live for 20, 30 years and produce milk for you.
Right.
Does that help?
Yeah, definitely. A dairy farmer would never consider slaughtering their cows because meat's up, because the cow money is in the milk. Yeah, the long-term milk of the cow. So don't sell your stocks off because it's because you're freaking out. It's the long-term scenario.
How did I
I've never heard that.
Does that help?
Yeah.
All right, good, good. So now where do you invest? Whoops, continue share. Where do you invest and where are the costs for your investments? Well, check this out. If you go to your local bank, like so many people do, they'll put their money in what's called an FDIC insured bank account. Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation insures it. But the challenge is if you know the history and you know that there are 10, 11, 12% returns in the market, and there are, if you're only getting 1 or 2 or 3, that FDIC insurance is basically costing you 7% of your money. So that's the most expensive place to put your money. They don't explain it that way, and I'm explaining it to you that way because they don't really want you to grow your money at the bank. They want you to grow your debt at the bank. That's how they make their profit. You in debt, you paying them interest. So they're charging you a ton of money to put their money in there at FDIC insured. And have you ever been frustrated with a bank and their fees for this and fees for that? That's on top of the 7% insurance charge they're hitting you with. So, and then you get taxed at ordinary income. So now what some people look at is where's another place to put my money? Well, insurance companies will tell you there's indexed annuities. And indexed annuities are good options, better than the bank. You get a principal guarantee, income's guaranteed by the insurance company, but you're still going to pay a high premium in insurance. It's going to be about 5% is going to the insurance costs. And so that means if the market's bearing 10, 11, 12, you're probably getting 5 or 6 at best. Okay. Now it is tax deferred. So until 59 and a half. So that's better than the bank, but it still kind of ties up your money and it does have more of a cost. Now there's new things on the market due to criticism of past annuities and whatnot. I got to move fast here because we only got like 5 minutes. There's things called structured annuities. And what those are those let you get your money into the S&P 500. They let you get your money into the EFI funds. They let you get your money in indexes. They give you downside protection from an insurance company. They don't have any fees, but you just got to kind of think about leaving the money more long term. No fee, but then they have periods of time, 3 years, 6 years, 5 years. That's another option. You have variable annuities. Variable annuities, they have income guarantees. They're designed to be like pension replacement plans. You know how a lot of people go to work for the federal government because they want a pension, or they go to work for some employers because they say, work for us for 30 years and we'll give you some money later on. That's what this does, but you can do it yourself. You're going to pay about 3% for those. And then the most efficient is going to be your mutual funds and your managed accounts. They have no guarantees though, so there's not insured taxable capital gains dividends, but their least expensive option is the mutual fund. So those guys, all I see is people criticizing, oh, the financial advisors are trying to get you in and get you in all the fees. Dude, it's the least expensive place to put your money. It's the most efficient place. I'm going to go fast here, but I want to share this other slide with you because I think it helped me. But for those of you that are fully licensed, is that coming up or not? No.
Yeah.
I stopped share. I wanted to share this Roth option. Maybe I'll do it another day because we're running out of time. Do you see that? The types of investments?
Yes.
Yeah. I like this too because this does get out the fee thing. And I just talked to the client. If you are managed license, if you're not, don't do the slide. But if you are, you can say, look, there's 3 different places we're going to put your money. This is pretty typically what I'm talking to people about because I want them to get the fee out of their head and I want them to be just, on right up front. We can go into a brokerage account, whereas a front end brokerage fee might be 0 if you have $1 million or more, or $500,000 or more. But pretty typically, it's anywhere from 3 to 5%. There's a fee to change the manager. If you go from Fidelity to Morgan Stanley or to Franklin Templeton or to T. Rowe, whatever, there's going to be a fee to change. It's the lowest cost long term. It's an ongoing about 1%, maybe a little less. Maybe if you don't get any advice, it's a little bit less. Then there's managed, no front end fee, no exit fee, flexibility to change your managers. It works more like most people are used to with streaming services like ESPN, HBO, Netflix. You pay as you go. If you don't like it, you change the service. That's the way managed works. So that's the beautiful thing. We change the managers, we move it around, but it's a little bit more expensive on the ongoing, but no expense to move it in or move it around. I got a plethora of managers. And then the last choice is variable annuities, no front end, flexibility to change managers, but you're paying for the insurance. So those are the 3 main types of accounts you can look at if you're fully licensed. I'm not going to be able to give it enough time to do the Roth options. I've done it once before, but we've got some really good things on the Roth that I wanted to share. But I think considering time, let's wrap it up.
How long will it take? Maybe you should do it because it's recording. It'll be good to be on there.
For the Roth?
Yeah, I think you should do it real quick.
Okay. Yeah, I can share it, Prince. I'll go through this fairly fast, but continue, share, stop the CC. And it's a, hey, Matt, if you don't take advantage of the Roth IRA, you could be making one of the biggest tax mistakes of your life. Did you know that?
No, tell me about it.
Okay. Are you familiar with the benefits of a Roth IRA?
Mm-mm.
The Roth IRA is not an investment. It's a tax code that tells the IRS how to treat your investment. So when you put your money in a Roth IRA, you can choose from a range of investments and you're playing with a different set of rules.
Wow.
There are Roth IRAs that can be set up at Bank of America, but a lot of times you're in that FDIC insured product we're talking about, and you're paying the heaviest fees there are. You don't think you are, but you are. And the money will never really grow like it should. Okay.
All right.
The powerful rules of a Roth IRA. Number one is you'll not take a deduction from your taxes as you contribute. However, your investments will grow tax-free from that time forward up until when you enter in retirement at 59 and a half. You can then withdraw 100% of the money tax-free. And do you think your taxes are going to be higher or lower in the future?
Higher.
Higher. The other one, the flexibility of the Roth allows you to access 100% of your contributions while your earnings compound and grow tax-free. You don't have to pay taxes when you withdraw your cost basis or initial investment. It kind of doubles as a second emergency fund. You can use 100% of your Roth as a first-time home buyer.
Wow.
All of your cost basis is yours whenever you want it. Okay? Backup emergency fund. When you enter retirement, there are no required minimum distributions, whereas with a traditional or a 401k, the IRS requires you to withdraw money whether you need it or not at a certain age.
Yeah.
So that means it can be passed to the next generation tax-free. When you pass away, the money can be transferred tax-free to the heirs. They can continue to let it grow if not needed, and it's a way you can build generational wealth. And because it's so beneficial, Congress limits what you can put in it for 2024 and 2025. You can only contribute $7,000 or $584 a month, but really you can start with as little as $50 a month. Okay.
Yep.
Getting started just may be the most important first step. So Matt, if you like the idea of benefiting from all 5 of these important rules, I recommend you start your Roth IRA and fund it with as much as you can every month. Is that fair? So Matt, is there any reason why you wouldn't want to take full advantage of that benefit?
Do it.
And then you do the calculator and show them why.
Wow. You gonna share this?
I can share it.
There's a
great.
5-year rule, right, Gordon?
Please do.
With the Roth, what's the 5-year rule?
Oh, the 5-year rule just says for the tax purposes in retirement, you got to have the account open more than 5 years.
5 years.
It's not a 5-year rule for the backup emergency fund. So if you put in over 5 years, let's say you put in $7,000 a year, and then it comes up and you need money for something, go to your emergency fund first. If there's not enough there, you can go to your cost basis of your Roth IRA, and they won't tax you.
But going, isn't isn't it LIFO? Or is it FIFO, right? Because like last in, first out, right? Because you can't just go and just take out from the cost base, right? I think they do like a percentage of each of the. Now
I'm not a tax professional. Talk to your tax.
Yeah.
How do you get into tax? That's the tax disclosure conversation. But I will tell you, I've had clients pull money from their Roth IRA, and there's never been a tax consequence.
Yeah, that's good.
I called the company last week about it because I had a question, and they told me that when they distribute funds, they automatically distribute cost basis first.
Okay.
So anytime they will not distribute any interest until cost basis is gone. Is
perfect.
Gone.
Isn't that a great option that they do that?
That's an amazing option. Yeah.
No.
They also have a 60-day buyback, so they can put the funds back in within 60 days of what they pulled out.
Yep.
Yeah. You got it 100%. And Kevin's right. Sometimes squirrels forget where those damn nuts are. The squirrel, there's nuts buried in places that shouldn't be buried. So, anyway, it could be in your attic. All right, guys. Good stuff. Hopefully that was value.
No, that was great. Thank you. Yeah, if you share it, that'd be great.
Appreciate
That was my first time in advanced class. That was good.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, I've been in the other side. That's
Okay,
good.
cool. All right. See you guys. Let's leave the breakout room, go back, join those guys, wrap
That's
it up.
good. Good job, man.